All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News. And you know what we're doing here today. Talking about this and that. Talking about environmental destruction. Headed for self-destruction. That was a good song. What's up? We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, Callin, and on Twitter. Come invite a friend. Come hang out with us. Or don't. Or grab a cup of coffee. Did Tesla get stuck in the snow again because it was too cold? This thing about technology. It's funny because agriculture needs to work in a Goldilocks zone of temperature, right? It's too hot, too cold. Agriculture doesn't work. It's too hot. It's technology is also the same, even though they have, they do have technology for super cold or super hot environments, but most technology needs to be in a Goldilocks zone. Was it Tesla that drove underwater? Huh. Too much radiation. Yeah, there's also that. Too much UV. Not enough UV. All right. What are we talking about here today? What are we talking about? What are we even talking about? My God. Excuse me. All right. If you're on Twitter, say what's up. By the way, I'm going to do, just as a quick, I think I'm going to do a show on my new Twitter account. And there's a link on my Twitter page for the new Twitter account if you want to go, if you want to find your way over there and get on the page. I don't know what time I'm going to do something over there yet. I'm going to say probably like noon my time. So 2 hours after this show ends, I will do a show over there. Talking about totally different stuff. So if you want to talk about climate change stuff, be here now. Was that Ram Dass? Dossett wrote Be, or is it video? Yes, Ram Dass. Be here now. And then if you want to talk about other things, then come hang out with me at noon on my other Twitter. Just Twitter only for right now, guys. Is the only place I'm going to do this other show for now until I can. It's probably not going to be a YouTube friendly show, so I'm probably going to do it like Twitter, maybe Rockfin. Okay. Let's look at this from Jason Hickel. This new research shows it's possible to provision decent living standards for all 8 billion people within planetary boundaries, he says. Okay. Requires renewable transition, food system transformation, efficient technology, and sufficiency principles. Okay. I believe it was Steve Austin retweeted this. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Let's go back. Or someone retweeted this saying, well, we need a revolution to do this. Even if you, come on, man. All right, it's ridiculous. Anyways. Somebody else retweeted this and said something pretty smart about it. But it's not giving me the retweet. Right. You're gonna Facebook and Instagram are down. This is what I hear. Well, they kicked me off of Facebook and making me. I care so much about Facebook. I haven't signed in yet. Anyways, it would be nice. It sounds awful nice, right? That we can. It sounds awful nice that we could, it sounds awful nice that we could figure it all out, right? That we've got answers for the problem that we've. And I don't know. I'm sorry, Jason Hickel. I know you care. I know you're trying. I know you're a good person with good intentions. I just, this is a comment under this post. Disappointed of planet Earth is the account. Thermodynamically and socially impossible. The energy demands of even the basic components of our civilization are astronomical. Ding. Nobody's going to vote for anything close to what's suggested. Those decent living standards are unsustainable anyways. Ding. Oh, let's see. Hold on. So, I agree with this comment more than I agree with the post. I tweeted something along the lines of what my response would be. To that, which is, what I say pretty much every day. We're probably not going to figure our way out of this right here, which we kind of looked at yesterday a little bit. This is a different take on this graph. This is where we are here, right? The straight line up. See all these nice smooth curves in global temperature? Nice smooth curves. It goes up, it goes down, goes up. But I mean, these are nice, smooth, long time-based curves, right? And then wham, we get this straight line, just a spike in this curve, which is completely and utterly um, just out of line with how things are supposed to be happening, on a natural level. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't know what you do about this. Considering the nice gentle curves of this, and you see this kind of spike here, I don't know. I don't know that you're going to gentle curve your way out of this, which is, I think, honestly, my wish, my hope is that we gentle curve our way out of this. I think we're going to do it. We're probably not going to figure our way out of this one, says I. But if we were going to try it, it wouldn't involve economic incentives to keep industrial civilization alive, green energy, or carbon taxes, which is, I think, what Jason Hickel is trying to put forth. That we're just going to smooth our way out of this one if we just do the right thing. It's kind of like voting harder, I guess. But, we try. We try. Like, I'm going to try. Oh, let me finish my thought. It would involve simplifying our lives and trying to be happy with much, much less. I'm going to try and do my best. And I might even vote. Why? I don't know. It's like recycling. I recycle even though I know it's ridiculous. I still recycle. Why? Because not recycling seems, I don't know. Not recycling seems sloppy to me, and that's just a personal thing. That's not a judgment on anybody. If you don't recycle, I don't care. If you don't recycle, I don't care. If you, I mean, I would suggest, there are more important things to do than recycling, I guess. Jazz Farm says, let's do the simplifying part. Yeah. Well, here's my thing too, to counter the people that are like, the let them eat bugs people, and the, in 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. Well, I don't think you're going to own nothing in 2030. You're going to be locked into, what that whole scenario entails is being locked into a system that you can't really escape. But right now, if we start now, if you actually gave up a lot of your, if people did this en masse, like gave up the consumer lifestyle, as much as possible, if people just stop driving their cars, right? I know we're locked in. It's hard. We're already locked in to a system that it's very difficult to escape. But yeah, north south. My recycling can is always way fuller than my trash can. Same with my composting bin. I compost and recycle way more than I throw out, which, I don't know. I recycle just because I hope that it goes to the right place. I don't know. But here's an even better thing, and Guy McPherson has said this, and other people have said this. A better thing than recycling is don't buy it in the first place. Don't get the thing that you need to recycle. Don't get the thing that comes in the packaging, or get the thing without packaging, or recycle the package itself. Right? That's something I also do. I recycle in another way. I don't recycle by throwing it in the bin. I recycle like jars and bags, and even if they're plastic, I know it's probably not great, but like paper bags, plastic bags, jars, anything, whatever the thing comes in, I keep that thing and try to reuse it as much as possible so that it gets more than one use. It's packaged once and thrown in the bin, like it gets more than one use, or maybe I can use it several times and then recycle it. But it just cuts way down on the consumer end. So anything you can do, I think, is important. But to go back to the idea about simplifying your life and having much, much less, like that actually is a revolutionary act. That is a revolutionary act. If millions of people decided all together to not drive cars anymore, or not buy oil or not buy gas anymore, right? To all get on bicycles or do something else or walk or just, change their lives in such a way. And I know it's hard. But if millions of people did this all at once, imagine the financial collapse that would cause. If millions of people decided to live extremely low consumptive, grow all their food in their backyards, pick their food from local trees, growing in the neighborhood, can all their foods, right? Just try to get out of the system and get off the grid as much as possible. If millions of people decided to do this together, it would drain the system financially, and it would drain the system of energy. It would drain the system of, faith that, the idea that we need to have the system, right? It's a revolutionary act. So having, living with much less is actually a great thing to do. And it's also freedom for you personally, on a very personal level. It's freedom for you. Some people might see it as austerity, but I don't know. I feel like living with less is freedom. I don't need all those things. Having a bunch of things doesn't bring me enjoyment in my life. Like I like simple pleasures. I like making my own food. I like, playing music and reading books and whatnot. Jazz Farm says if everyone had a small flock of hens, it would also eliminate most of the landfill waste, and they could grow tomatoes. Yeah. Absolutely. Osama also, how about we try not bombing people? And that's the part of the equation I didn't put in. I almost said something about that in this post. I almost said something about that, and I just didn't want to get too long-winded. But my next sentence in this post was going to be, something to the effect of, the military-industrial complex needs to come down. But again, you could starve that, right? What are they talking about doing? They're talking about bringing back the draft because nobody's signing up for the military. And they ended the draft in the first place because it was so dang unpopular. They ended the draft because it was causing social upheaval in this country. They stopped having it. I don't even know how they still have mandatory drafts in other countries. I don't really get it. Anyways, if nobody went to join the military, what's the military going to do? They're building robots as fast as they can, I'm sure, just to solve that problem specifically. Anyways, guys, we got to do this before they send the pack of robot dogs down your street to circle your house and let you know that you're not coming out. At that moment, it will be too late. But it surely is a hopeful message from Jason Hickel. I don't know. I mean, we could, if we lived, a very low carbon lifestyle, we could probably sustain quite a few people on the planet. But I mean, you got to downsize everything. And why would you, anyways. People used to have large families in the past because, several children would not make it to adulthood, right? Life expectancies were lower. But I think people naturally, birth rates naturally lower anyways with um right, with access to food, water, education, housing. Um Yeah, no, I saw that. Osama. I think I'm going to cover that on my other channel. I did see that. I did see that by Caitlin Johnson also posted that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, they're trying to get them robot dogs out there as quick as they can because people are gonna be like, nah, I don't know about doing this. I don't want to do this no more. I'd be like, well, I think you will be doing this. Okay. Here's a wild stat. An astonishing 23% of the contiguous U.S. was at least 5 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for the entire meteorological winter 2023 to 2024. Only 1% was below normal. And this is kind of what I showed, on the heels of what I showed yesterday about all the very warm areas the U.S. is having. The warm winters in the areas that were having the extremely warm winters. Look at this, though. Look at the dark, deep red. That's in the 10 Fahrenheit. So he's saying at least 5. At least 5. 23% of the contiguous U.S. was at least 5. But look at these areas. All this area was plus 10. Only 1% was below normal. I think Obsolete sent this to me. That's wild. That is wild. Let's see. I have so many things to talk about on my other channel, by the way. So just get ready for an onslaught. I probably won't be able to cover everything I want to cover. Friend of the show, George Sacrocletes, posted this. Let me interpret this psychedelic chart for you, as none of the media or politicians will ever dare to look you in the eye and tell you things that will send shivers down your spine. I will, the end of this planet's habitable climate for most biological life forms, yes, humans too, is coming. The Arctic ice sheet is basically going, and pretty soon all the following will happen. 1, a lot of cold in some places, even more heat in others, cold and heat like you've never experienced. And 2, if one isn't uninhabitably cold or hot, your food will be uninhabitably expensive. That is, if there is any produced. 3, 8 billion people going hungry means only one thing: unrest everywhere. Have a good night. And he's talking about, this is the sea ice thickness in 2024. Looking very unthick. So red to green here is the thickest part. And when you get into the aqua, that is less than 2 meters thick. So most of the Arctic, again, down to just a sliver here of thick ice, as it has been going for several years in a row, several years running. this part. I mean, we're in February, so this should be kind of the highest extent, right? Isn't February? Let me see. Arctic sea ice volume. No, the highest extent, I guess, would be April, May. I don't know. Anyways, we should be getting in the season when this is the ice is the thickest, and then it melts and goes down at the end of the summer. It gets to its lowest. But this is awful thin for February. Yeah, Scott, I think you're right. And I think that apparently we can tolerate a lot. Apparently we're going to just sit around and talk about how bad it is. I mean, if, and people are scared enough, and it's tough times right now. Ah, yes, this is a good one. Well, and this is not even really. I think there's a better graph than this, but this is. I was talking about this yesterday about about GDP and the wealthier countries being much better at destroying the environment. What's up, Rock Finners? How you doing? Denver. Oh, you got a couple links from Denver too on Twitter, so talk about that. I'm trying to get that in sooner than later. Yeah, that's a weird. It's a good link. Okay. All right. So this is Leon Simons responding to Jordan Peterson, who totally understands the climate crisis. This is what is wild to me. Jordan Peterson totally understands the climate crisis. He has made a public statement. He's been on camera before saying, yeah, I don't know what we do about that. We're not going to figure it out. Right? As if somebody asked him about climate change, he said, yeah, that's a tough one. Don't think we're going to figure that out. He totally knows. So anything he says about climate change now, he's playing dumb. He's playing dumb for a reason. Maybe he's playing dumb because he knows what's happened. Like all other elites that know, or all other, pretty intelligent people that know what's coming, but want to, I guess, play the game and have a livelihood and appeal to their fan base and et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to piss off your fan base. Right? He's playing a game. He's playing dumb by not recognizing a problem. And that's infuriating to me. Anyways, he says richer people care more for the environment because they can afford to. The faster we pull people out of abject poverty, the better our long-term environmental situation. Huh. Okay. I mean, it sounds nice. It sounds good. Like I'm sure that idea appeals. I'm sure that idea appeals to a lot of people. Right? Oh, well, yeah, that sounds good. I think everybody should be more wealthy, and then the planet will be better because of it. Anyways, David Wint, though, he says for actual billionaires, bunkers are just a small part of a diversified portfolio of bets against the future. Right? That's why, this is a great comment. And then people actually bring up a lot of very um, really good, responses to this. Poor people don't have the money to buy useless stuff, right? Poor people don't generally have 6 cars and 3 homes and all the infrastructure to support those 6 cars and 3 homes, right? Because it takes a lot of resources to keep that going. So this guy says poor people don't have the money to buy consumer stuff, but care less. Yeah, I don't know about that. This idea that rich people care more about the environment, I think, is really just like, okay, it's elitist, is what it is. Some rich people care but don't want to give up their standard of living, and pointing fingers to even richer ones, or to China, where their useless stuff is produced. It's a fairly good comment. Rich people, look, I care about the environment. I only buy 5 new clothes a year and fly only once, and I recycle my waste. Poor people, I've only flown once in my whole life, and it's been years since I bought new clothes. Right. Right. And then somebody else says the average person in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, uses less electricity in a year than a UK fridge. Exactly. Which is what I was talking about yesterday. Anyways. And this graph is a little bit weird because they're talking about CO2 emissions per capita versus GDP per capita, 2018. But, I mean, it's not they're just talking about CO2 versus GDP. But anyways, it kind of shows you that the less that poor people actually release less emissions. Are responsible for less emissions and are responsible for less, maybe poorer people don't, sometimes don't care for their immediate environment. But as a whole, right, because if you don't have the money, they're not causing like a global resource, as much of a global resource crunch or global destruction as wealthy nations all do all the time. And where's the environmental destruction come in the developing nations? Mostly comes from having to service or make products for or keep up with or become vassal states of the wealthy nations who need all the stuff, right? What do? We go around the world and we conquer, control, put into debt slavery, et cetera, right? We do all these things in order to control resources. Anyways. So that's kind of a silly idea. What he means is rich people like to think that they care. But they are conveniently and intentionally unaware of the damage that they produce. I'm sure that some wealthy people try. I know some wealthy people that try. I'm sure. I'm sure that they try, and I applaud people for their effort. You know, no, wherever you're at, poor or rich, you know, if you're making an effort, I applaud you. But mostly, what is it? What was the concept of trickle down economics? I mean, and that's exactly how most of our society operates, and how most right trickle down from trickles down from the super duper uber wealthy, the lifestyles, and all the resource depletion, right? But what about jobs? But they employ so many people, right? The idea is that the wealthy and the rich and the large corporations, that they're economic engines. Sure, of course they are. They're also environmental destruction engines. The bigger you are, the more you destroy. That's just straight up, again, a math or a physics equation. That is, the correlation is direct and undeniable. You can't just wave it away or unsee it once you see it. Yes, Brenda, we're all walking on thin ice. Yes. Okay. Where else are we going? Where are we going? Have a couple other things to talk about. Well, I got more than a couple. More than a couple. And only a short time to talk about them. Let's see. Chad Miano says being poor is not a virtue. It's usually a matter of circumstance. Well, yeah, it is. But this is, I guess, where we are now in civilization, and is that should you choose to live simply, and some people do. Some people actually choose to live simply. Um, I think there's a difference between being right, like, and what happens in the world often is that the wealthy and the powerful, um, not only suck up the resources, but set up the system in a way so that the poor cannot aggregate any wealth. Right. This is why the United States is cracking down on crypto, and while they're slowly trying to like um, get in the way of like people like even day trading, right? They're trying to shut out regular people from having any way to accumulate wealth or get you know whatever, do something outside of just working a crap job. Um, they're doing it everything in their power to limit people getting together and starting their own businesses or their own food co-ops or their own right. They do this all the time to get in the way of people getting what's the term for it. Hold on one second, Joseph. I see you. Uh, um, well, I was going to use the word communism, but that's not quite collectivism. They're getting in the way of and Creative Experiment says I bought some silver. So a long time ago, was it during the Depression? They confiscated gold. They got everybody to give up their gold. Why? Because they knew that it was a way for people to store wealth. It was an avenue by which people could control their own wealth. This is what they do. This is what they do to the poor. Anyways. What's up, Joseph? How you doing? Morning, sir.
So we have a problem in general worldwide. Listening to all these reports from all the channels like yours and and people like Jordan Peterson, we have a dumbing down problem. Largely the desire to draw straight lines, and it starts with CO2. I mean, I've said it before, but it really, really does. Once you start limiting the conversation to the atmosphere and CO2 content and how it's produced, you get to leave out too much stuff and
Oh,
too much
sure.
effects.
Yeah, yeah.
Your your article on the aerosols yesterday is a good example of that. That person, whoever, whatever group wrote that stuff, is ignoring the physics terms that describes the laws of thermodynamics, where in every
Right.
particular type of substance has a particular capacitance
Yeah.
to absorb energy. And that's being ignored. And they're just talking about the optics. And then the assumption gets to be made based on reading data. Once you're drawing that straight line, you can assume that the data means that the energy then goes out to space and you've cooled the planet when you haven't. You've introduced a thermal mass from one place to another. The laws of thermodynamics dictate that that substance absorbs energy and keeps it until something removes it, and that something has to have a greater capacitance and a conductance element of its own to take away that energy. And you can talk about the energy in various ways, vibration, whatever. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, in aerosols, we make the atmosphere more efficient in moving energy into the oceans from the Earth processes,
Right.
basically at the poles. And that's hardly ever involved in conversation. Jim Massa read an article on ECH a couple weeks back that actually addressed that,
Uh-huh.
but that got virtually no feedback from anyone talking on the channel.
Right.
And it's the same thing. So if you look at our cities, all the stuff we make our cities from, they're all heating the surface area and ocean of the earth from that same principle. All of it.
Mm-hmm.
And CO2 versus copper, gold, steel, cement, very tiny thermal capacitance in the physics realm for energy compared to the solid stuff.
Right.
But it gets left out conveniently. And I would say that a large portion of the talk is not intentionally doing that. I think it's just the lore of how it originated, and it's much more publishable now if you stick to stuff that's already accepted.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I found that article that I read yesterday to be like wholly ridiculous. Like,
of
I
course,
mean,
but
the fact that they even, I mean, people just got paid to, there was just that part of it. I mean, whatever, you know.
and but you get it. How many people out there don't? I mean, I
I
can't
mean, the
publish a
fact that they're
paper
even
that says
talking about
anything
that
different.
as if it's even a serious subject. It's like,
Right.
I mean, the premise of the paper was wholly just like, I mean, just goofball. Well, we should start solar engineering. We should start SRM now because it'll be more effective if we do it now instead of wait until later. Like what? Okay.
Right.
I was just like,
And you're literally
whoa.
adding more fuel to the furnace that holds heat and dumps it into the ocean, which creates more expansion and
Yeah.
rapidly increases all the other effects.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll have some days there that are cooler because of what you did here on the surface of Earth as we experience it,
Right.
which is kind of like getting a TV dinner because it's faster rather than steaming some broccoli.
Right. I mean, oh, I don't know about that, but that's the theory, right? Yeah.
Right, right. It's knee jerk.
Hmm.
It's knee jerk science in a knee jerk.
Well, it's also just yeah. I mean, people um, with limited thinking are everywhere, and it's unfortunate. I'm not to be like, well, I sound so elitist, but no, it's just true though. I mean, you have people with limited thinking doing things like putting out papers like that. It's like it's so infuriating and frustrating, and then you know, you wonder why papers are being put out like that, right? Like, what
Well,
is somebody behind this study or this paper, right? Well, we better get it going now because when we do it later, it's just going to be really bad. Like, okay, well, sure.
it seems like a feel-good environment, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think anybody's immune to that, not even me. You really have to be on your own critic to stay ahead of any of that.
Sure.
And it's not always easy without other people reflecting back at you your errors.
Yeah. Right. And then, what is, in a, if you have a position wherever it might be in academia or, corporate, in the corporate structure somewhere, you're going to do things that protect your position.
If you're wise in that way, yes.
Yeah.
I'm rather stupid
You're not going
in
to do
that
things
way.
that are going to. You're not going to do things that are going to make people uncomfortable. Because
I didn't know that rule.
yeah, I mean, woe be unto the person who actually lives in a way that embodies truth and
Absolutely.
and ethics and morals and standards. But anyway. Well, hey man, thanks for the call in. I'm gonna just talk about a few more things and get out of here pretty soon.
You.
But yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.
This is interesting. So Denver sent me a couple of interesting articles. Brown bears digging up artificial forests. This is a very well. This just goes to show another issue with planting trees, I guess, or just willy-nilly, not necessarily encouraging. Like, there's the argument between rewilding and just going out and planting some trees. Anyways, brown bears foraging for food in the Shiratoko Peninsula of excuse me, Hokkaido, Japan, have been disrupting tree growth in artificial conifer forests, according to a new study published in Ecology. Researchers compared soil and tree samples from human forested plots with samples from natural forest. They found that the bears digging for cicada nymphs damaged tree roots and altered the nitrogen content of the soil, which in turn limited the diameter growth of trees. The phenomenon of bears digging for cicadas, an unusual food source, appears to be restricted to human-planted conifer forests. Diversely vegetated natural forests were unaffected. Bears in Hokkaido sometimes suffer from sparse food supplies, but it is not known if this is the reason for their cicada search. These results are important for animal conservation and efforts to return used land to a wild state, highlighting the value of recreating diverse local ecosystems that can support natural wildlife behavior. Anyways, yeah. That's interesting. And another one here. Where to go? Is the state of water on the planet. New analysis shows the global freshwater cycle has shifted far beyond pre-industrial conditions. A new analysis of freshwater resources across the globe shows that the updated planetary boundary for freshwater change was surpassed by the mid-20th century. So, long time ago. In other words, for the past century, humans have been pushing the Earth's freshwater system far beyond the stable conditions that prevailed before industrialization. Wow. Maybe that should be the baseline. Pre-industrial should be the baseline. Maybe, we should return, somewhat, if we could, to the baseline. Pre-industrial. This is the first time that global water cycle change has been assessed over such a long time scale with an appropriate reference baseline. The findings published in Nature Water show that human pressures human pressures, such as dam construction, large-scale irrigation, and global warming, have altered freshwater resources to such an extent that their capacity to regulate vital ecological and climatic processes is at risk. Yeah. I should say so. There's a, what was it? I was just talking about or reading something. I think it was on the channel. God, I can't remember, all the days blend into one, but I was reading something about, we were talking about water sources and the fact that in a lot of places, they are no longer using the normal, regular water sources. Well, California is an example where, we used to consume a lot of water, water from the runoff from snows, right? These natural flows of water that, would snow in the winter, and the melting of the snow, the runoff from the snow, during the summer would create these natural water flows and water sources. We are far outpacing the use of that particular water source and using groundwater, sucking up the groundwater. And that groundwater is getting lower and lower and lower. The groundwater doesn't even replenish, right? So we're out using the availability of water in very damaging ways. So yeah, and that will not last forever. And when that's gone, then what? There's not another source. I see a lot of people talking about, we can suck up water from the atmosphere. Okay. There'll be no issues with that, I guess. I don't know. Sure, that'll be fine. The demand for water will be such that we'll just suck water out of the atmosphere. Do you think that's going to support 8 billion people? What do you think that's going to do to the climate? What do you think that's going to do to weather systems? What do you think? I mean, come on, man. All right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, tag me in that, Obsolete. All right, guys. You know how to support the show, and I really appreciate all y'all's support. You know who you are. You can super chat, super Ray. There's links, many links of direct donate options. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, etc. are in the description box of this video, wherever you're watching it. So if you want to support the show, well, I need your support. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to leave you all, and I'm going to do a show, I think, on my new channel on Twitter. This is Twitter only, so go to Twitter. You can find the link on my Twitter page to the Octopus Files, which is my new channel. So we can, I'm going to do a show, I think, at like noon. I don't know how long it's going to be, too. It'll probably be like 30 minutes, maybe tops, but maybe a little longer. But just want to get some stuff out, because I'm gathering stuff more quickly that I can actually talk about it. Anyways, all right, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, and until next time, peace.